Good evening. Welcome to the first of the year, actually. City of Hartford Committee, Labor, Education, Workforce Use and Development Committee. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. I am Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti. I'm joined by Councilwoman Bilodeau, and I don't see Councilman Thomas or Councilman Gale. I have to do a little housekeeping. So let's see, the meeting is at 6 on HPA-TV, Comcast, and Frontier Government Channels 96 and 6032. It will also be streamed via hpatv.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV's Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon TV apps. It will also be rebroadcast and made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. So that's our housekeeping. So tonight with us, besides Councilwoman Bilodeau, we have Deputy Chief of Staff Christian Corzo from the Mayor's Office. Thank you, Christian, for attending. We have our Corp Counsel, Attorney Danielle Combs. Thank you, Danielle. And for the people not on the Zoom with us, but the thousands of people who are watching us, I just wanted to say that we are very excited because tonight we are going to have a presentation from one of the transition teams that the mayor had put together. And so for folks who didn't know, our new mayor, Mayor Aru-Lampalam, when he came into office, he came up with the idea to put together some transition teams to look at some of the major issues in our city. And those teams consisted of arts and culture, civic engagement, economic development, homelessness, housing, immigration services, LGBTQIA and affairs, public health, public safety and quality of life, workforce development, who we have with us tonight, and youth and education. The mayor's been meeting with all those transition team members, going over. They were asked to, on a half-a-day session, put together some ideas, some maybe short-term ideas and some longer-term ideas for the mayor and his administration and the council to look at as ways to improve some of the issues that we have in the city. I know he hasn't finished, at least I don't think he's finished meeting with all the transition team members. When he does, he's going to bring people back and going to have an announcement on what are the next steps? What are some things that can be done immediately, shorter term, middle term, longer term? Well, with that said, we thought, workforce, one of the key names in our title, would be nice if they came and presented at our committee. So with us here tonight, I know Yolanda Rivera and Jim Boucher, who chaired the committee, and I'm very excited to see Mike Neely, who is a business agent for Local 35, has joined us, and he was on the committee, and I don't think we have anyone else. But we're going to have Jim, Yolanda, and I'm sure Mike present or give us what they presented to the mayor. And I'm sure, as someone who sat on one of the committees, I personally felt like it was a lot of work. Thank you very much, Mr. New Mayor. It was like doing homework. I felt like I was getting a college paper ready. But you know what? It was exciting, and there was a lot of energy, and there were a lot of ideas around the table. So I think that's what he was really looking for. He was looking to, let's think of some things we haven't thought of before. Let's just, even though it's fun to say, let's not think about if money wasn't an issue when that's always an issue. But I think we tried to think of it in that way. We tried to think, what could we present? So Councilwoman Bilodeau, did you want to say anything before they jump into the presentation, kind of give themselves a little background too?
Nothing that I'd have to say that you didn't say. I was also on one of the committees, and it was a good amount of work, but I enjoyed my time, and I'm happy to put the ideas on the table.
What committee were you on?
I was the LGBTQ committee.
Right.
Yep.
And so how much work it was then also.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. With everything else we're doing, right?
Yeah. No, well, with everything.
But good work. Good work, Marilyn. No.
No, it is. So, Jim, Yolanda, Mike, I don't know how you want to present. If you guys want to give a little background on what you guys did, or I'm going to leave now. I'm going to mute myself and give it.
Jim, I am going to begin basically, by thanking Jim for being the co-chair of this transition team. The charge, actually, when we were contacted by the mayor, basically, he asked us to put together a list of recommendations that, were going to be both short-term and long-term. And we took that charge very seriously. And, I also have to thank every member of the committee, and which I am going to mention, thank you, Jim, for putting them up. I am going to attempt to basically present all the members of this committee. I apologize if I basically kind of mispronounce somebody's last name, but if you do know that person, please feel free to correct me. So as you can see up on the screen, you are going to see the members of the various agencies that actually were part of this committee, beginning with David Hopkins from the Urban League, Taniqua Hughley from the United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut, Enrique Juncadella from Workforce Solutions Collaborative of Metro Hartford, Hector Rivera, our Piece of the Pie, Beth Hines from Community Partners in Action, Joel Hicks Rivera from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, Diane was one of my co-workers at the Connecticut Building Trades Training Institute, Shannon Merriman from Reading, Connecticut, Dr. Duncan Harris from the Connecticut State Community College at Capital Community College, Sandy Reyes from Connecticut Department of Labor, Anthony Barrett from the Connecticut Office of Workforce Strategy, Christy Pentima from the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, Mike Neely, who, my hats off to you, Mike, for joining us this evening from IBEW Local 35. We also had Ron Stewart, who's a minority contractor, Mary Morgan from Hartford Healthcare, Marty Guay from Stanley Black & Decker, and David Graves from Metro Hartford Alliance. So, we need to thank all of them for their contributions to the effort, because without their participation, we would not have been able to put together the comprehensive report that we put. I also have to give kudos to Ben Hensley from Capital Workforce Partners, because this young man helped us gather all the data in terms of research, and then he put together, basically he wrote and put together everything that we brought into each conversation and put together this report. So we also have to thank him for his contributions to the report and what we were able to accomplish. The committee itself concentrated on 4 primary areas of need, and you can see them up on the board. And what Jim and I are going to do is we're going to do a tag team to present these 4 primary areas, with Jim presenting to you 1 and 3, and then I'm going to make an attempt to present to you 2 and 4. And then we're going to also, besides these 4 primary areas, the committee itself also identified other recommendations for longer term strategies, at which we also plan to present to you this evening. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
Great. Thank you, Yolanda. And as Yolanda mentioned, really appreciated the opportunity to work with the mayor and a significant group of leaders. And we also, I think, had several work groups, right, Yolanda, as part of the overall effort. So, and each of the work groups had additional people that, at some point we'll give them even further recognition. So it was quite an effort. And and I'm just going to briefly just mention again these 4 areas, but just take about maybe 5 minutes or so to kind of talk to you a little bit. I think Marilyn, you mentioned the homework, right? So we wanted to give to council members some updates on that homework. We won't spend a lot of time diving deep into each one area. I think you have the information at your disposal, but we would also say there's a significant amount of additional data and information we hope that the mayor will use, that the council will use, that we were able to pull together that's very updated information. So again, as Yolanda mentioned, these were the 4 areas that we focused on. We're going to come back to these in about 5 or 6 minutes, but just again to name them: youth career pathway systems development, really helping young people know where they can go to get critical services in the community is what this amounts to. And to what extent can we map that out, have that available publicly, have it clear about what services are available. So you'll hear more about that in a few minutes. The Trades Apprenticeship Readiness Program expansion, again, Yolanda will be speaking more to this in terms of a really exciting, important opportunity for Hartford students to gain immediate vocational training in some of the construction areas and careers around high demand that are in the building trades. And then third area was around really assuring that residents who are looking for, workforce programs have a clear sense of where to go to avail themselves of those services. Almost similar to number one around youth services. This is probably a little bit more on the adult side. How are we assuring that it's real clear about what immediate services around workforce are available? So we'll be talking more about that in a few minutes. And then Yolanda will then speak more around local hiring and private sector partnerships, where again, significant opportunities exist for hiring additional Hartford residents, really looking at some significant opportunities around partnerships. So briefly, just again, want to note that around some background information. Again, this kind of background really kind of helped us build out these recommendations. Good news in Hartford, right, is lots of jobs that are in Hartford, right? And these are Hartford's top industries, which we all know pretty well. So we have this significant number of jobs right here in the city, 83,105. And then looking at the occupations in Hartford, right? Again, we could also give you what the occupations look like in the region and around the state, but particularly in Hartford, again, we broke out where some of the more significant growth areas are around various occupations in Hartford. And you can see a significant availability of growth in healthcare, as well as in what we would say, general operations managers. A lot of significant, right, opportunities in transportation, distribution, and logistics. Growing opportunities in IT and tech, and again in construction and other critical areas. Again, we can go into these in a more significant way if you would like, either now or down in the future. Just wanted to maybe focus for a minute on this particular sort of key.
Hey, Jim,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
just say, if people have questions, we'll just wait till the end, okay?
Great.
All right, thanks.
And I think, where we would take for a minute or two just to talk about a few of these critical items. These are some of the workforce trends that we kind of pulled out. Again, this was the work of the committee and work groups. We asked everybody to take a hard look at a lot of the data points and background and really tell us what they thought were the top 3 or 4 critical items that we needed to look at. And so, clearly you'll see a little bit of some of the maps in a few minutes, but we see a significant, what we call labor force disconnection, where in many parts of Hartford, individuals are not gainfully employed and are not necessarily looking for work, and are just have not or have stopped looking for work. And there might be a lot of factors that are contributing to that, but it's an area where we see significant opportunity for how do we further engage a good number of people in Hartford that are interested in looking for work. How can we assure that we're engaging them fully and being aware of what employment exists, or know what barriers or other challenges are facing members of the community where they also might feel discouraged and frustrated from opportunities that are out there that they would like to proceed and gain employment on. And then this area here around major skills gap, right? This is probably the biggest area that we looked at overall. We see almost 61% of the Harvard job openings requiring a bachelor's degree or greater, yet only 21.5% of the residents have a bachelor's degree or greater, right? So when we look at that, statistic alone, right? We're seeing a significant number of jobs in Hartford that Hartford residents could be more accessing, not necessarily occurring because of that skills gap. And there's a lot that's contributing to that, right? And we can, speak more to that in a little bit, but this skills gap challenge probably is having many, many implications on the city of Hartford and residents and businesses. This is where, more residents who are gaining these skills and gaining these jobs, right, could be increased taxpayers in Hartford, could be increased contributing to goods and services at local businesses, could be meeting employer needs for additional employer growth in the city. So we really wanted to sort of spotlight this tonight and really talk about this as sort of a key area that we need to focus on. And then I'm going to be kind of brief and quick on the rest of this because I think those are a couple of the items we wanted to mainly highlight. But again, we wanted to talk about the risk and disconnection to young people, and also especially as the COVID pandemic hit, there's been just a significant amount of disconnection of young people to both education and employment. We see this significant high number of high school exiters who have become disconnected rather than going on to post-secondary career and college opportunities. We're seeing many that are continue to be unemployed and out of school and out of work. And that 42% figure is something that we also want to see if we can impact and really try to direct our attention to. And then we know what the connection between poverty and employment is. And just a note on that, I'm not going to focus on these maps other than to say that we have them here, and we hope that people will take them, utilize them. And I think what we're trying to also state is that we can look based on the data and census information we have, where are the biggest impacts in what community in terms of labor participation. There can also be targeted neighborhood strategies that really looks at, can we do more employment and training saturation and more awareness, more connection in the community. So you can see throughout, these sort of mapping exercises that we can also look at how do we target resources, how do we target awareness services to communities that might have a high school completion, or the opposite of that, where there's significant challenges in terms of educational attainment. We can also look at this from median household income. Where do we see the most significance in poverty, where maybe we need to look at how do we think about more community engagement to assure that individuals connect to employment opportunities. We then try to take a look at, and this is not a total picture, this is in the amount of time we had, us trying to map out where are some of the community workforce centers. And we try to denote and detail what kind of community workforce centers. But again, we have this availability of mapping where we can identify where some of the critical programs are. Again, we don't have all of the organizations on this map, but this is going to come back later when we talk about how do we further complete some mapping in the city. We already have some significant work that's occurred. Can we further, assure that we're connecting with all of the different kinds of workforce and employment training programs that are in the community? And we do think, I'm just going to go back to this mapping for a brief second, just to state that if we took a combination of looking at all of the mapping that we did and we rolled it up in terms of really looking at where are the areas of greatest needs, where are there particular community organizations and services already available, how are we strategically assuring that those connections are being made intentionally in communities where there are the highest need. And we have that technology, we have that mapping ability. We do need to go further. And that's going to be part of the recommendation you'll see here in a minute. And And this is where I'm going to pretty much conclude, I think, in terms of just some of the background research. This here again really sort of alarmed us in terms of the amount of disconnection going on with young people and employment and education in the city. We've almost seen a doubling of the opportunity youth population. Largely, much of it had an interconnection with the pandemic and the disruption and the disconnection that happened as a result of the pandemic. And we're just now trying to, see what the implications of that are. But a vast number of young people who, are in that age category of between 18 to 24 years of age that, are disconnected, out of school, out of work, and also a significant number of high school students that are also disconnected. And so that really kind of takes us towards the 4 critical recommendations that really speak to the research and the background that, I just pointed to. Yolanda, I might begin with just talking about number 1 and number 3 as some key recommendations, and then turn it to you, Yolanda, to talk about number 2
That
and
sounds
4.
good, Jim.
Okay. So the first one, again, we also made available the larger 20-page report that gets into some of the specific details for each of these recommendations. So I'm just giving the higher level highlights right now. But the first one around youth career pathway systems development, one of the areas we thought was a clear recommendation is how do we map out, how do we make available the youth services that are available in the city that are both education, employment, and workforce services. We would say that a fair amount of mapping, has begun. And here's the picture, I guess, just to paint, is that we would like to be able to say, okay, you are able to go to particular websites, the City of Hartford, Capital Workforce Partners, others, to be able to look at a map of here are the services, but also it would be accompanied by a directory that you could then search for a particular opportunity in terms of youth services by just putting in a keyword, okay? Maybe you're interested in a healthcare internship, right? Plug it in. Maybe you're interested in maybe you've had some, maybe you're in a particular neighborhood where you can only go so far to get services. You can plug in, a street name or a zip code or whatnot, and you could go to those services that are in your area. It could be that you're interested in a particular, intervention. It might be around mental wellness. It might be around, other kinds of, apprenticeship programs. It could be a variety of things. But where do you go so that that information is all available at a particular site? And this was something that we spent a lot of time talking about, that everybody felt really strongly about. And it was something that we thought could be done in a manageable amount of time. It's something that if we received just some additional resources for the additional mapping and the additional sort of completing the directory of services, could be available in a matter of, a few months. We're not talking about, a few years. We're talking about in a few months. And there's already been work done in this area. So we already have templates. We already have some of the frameworks. There's already been past history where the city's done put some of the maps on some of the key parts of the website. So we feel like this is something that is very doable and would also support at a critical time young people being able to be connected to that. I would also note that there's an effort going on called the Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative, as well as the Hartford Career Navigation System, where there are individuals that are working together who are career navigators, outreach workers, mentors, other community organizations, and around the city that are coming together to also talk about how are they connecting in the community, how are they on the street, assuring that this information, if we are able to get it, using technology as a solution, how do we assure that it's getting to community households, to individuals, person to person? And so this career navigation system, this Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative, is also a opportunity to build on that structure to assure that there's a community connection of this information back into the community. We could spend more time talking about that at some point in time. I'll cover the third item and then turn to Yolanda for the other two, and then I guess open it up for other questions, thoughts. The third one here around community workforce hub coordination is somewhat, similar to the first one, but more on the adult side, right? So on the adult side, we know that there's dozens of agencies who are working that have workforce programs, that have workforce services, right? That are doing, really well. And but yet, how well does the community know about these programs? Where do they go? How do they navigate? How do they assure that they're getting immediate attention so that they're not going and potentially going to the wrong program or not getting immediate service? How can we be assured there's like no wrong door and full access to this? So with this, we've also developed what we would call a hub coordination effort, where we would assure that there would be an agreed upon sort of coherent platform for all organizations, whether or not, it would be sort of technology built again, where organizations could be able to be connected together on a sort of joint platform where the kinds of services were also easily made available no matter what door you were knocking on. So if you went into agency A, they would have the same information as agency B, agency C, agency D, and could refer between different organizations. And that, again, is using technology as a solution. It means mapping out where are those programs. It means developing an education and awareness program for those workers who are supporting these different workforce hubs, so that they're providing similar information and assuring that people are getting right to those critical workforce services that are in the community. At Capital Workforce Partners, there's the American Job Center that is actually opening a new location on Weston Street that will be opened in June, reopened in June, and have some more additional supports. We'd like to make sure that that's tied to the American Job Center that's also going to be reestablished at the Hartford Public Library once that also reopens, and that's also tied to some of the other kinds of training programs, the building trade jobs funnel, the best chance program, the other kinds of many workforce programs that are out there. And we also see that there's some additional efforts to build out workforce hubs throughout the city. And I won't name those right now, but some of them you kind of saw in the report. So I'm going to pause there, but just to kind of make mention that that third item also is doable within a matter of months. This is not a multi-year project. This can be done with a modest amount of resources, because it will take some additional mapping, some additional technology, some additional supports. But we were also trying to figure out how these recommendations, as the mayor, clarified to us, could be done in a realistic amount of time, with a realistic amount of potential resources, built on sort of the collaboration and partnership of the key partners that participated in this. So with that, I'll turn it to Yolanda.
Yolanda, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry for that. Can you hear me now? Very good. So I just want to remind everyone that when the committee was created, basically at the first meeting, we decided to say that the charge of this committee was to create or identify training and employment opportunities for city residents. So as a city resident that has been putting together and managing programs in the construction field, I have to tell you that when you look at the sector of construction, registered apprenticeship training programs are the best vehicle to get individuals into career pathways and into the trades, both in the general and licensed trades. And I have seen how kind of in Hartford, basically kind of we have not connected the dots. And when I say we have not connected the dots, is that Hartford for over 20 years has had a school construction program. Basically with, school construction programs that are agreements where, the community has the opportunity to put in, language that actually benefits and creates hiring opportunities for city residents and actually also prepare them to enter these programs. Unless you are in a vocational high school, right, you don't have access to apprenticeship readiness training programs. So, we have to think about what can we do to bring back these opportunities into the comprehensive high schools. I have to tell you that across the state of Connecticut, other municipalities have figured it out. There are programs right now that are in Naugatuck. Another one is beginning in Torrington, at Torrington High School next week. And what they have done is that they have linked their construction program with also creating opportunities for seniors at the high school. And we actually begin to work with them 6 months before they graduate so that they totally get exposed to what these opportunities are, what these registered apprenticeship training programs are, and how they need to prepare, what are the things that they need to put in place for them to be able to access them. So they need to understand that they have to graduate high school and they need to complete high school. They also need to begin to think about getting a driver's license and their learner's permit. And then they also have to have a plan for transportation, because even though the goal is to get them employed in their community at the school projects, they still have to be able to go to where the next job is, which, may be anywhere across the state of Connecticut. So I think that here in Hartford, we can definitely have some type of a apprenticeship readiness training program at the high schools that does the same thing. You can add, you can basically put language into the project labor agreements that actually stipulate how these projects are going to be built. And you can give preference to hiring or pulling, and placing these graduates from this program at these sites. So basically, this is what's happening in Naugatuck. Definitely, the Board of Education has to be a partner in the effort. I have to tell you that in the municipalities where, this is actually happening, administrations are highly supportive of this effort, to the point that they are giving the students half a credit for successful completion of 120 plus hours of a pre-apprenticeship program called the Multi-Craft Core Curriculum, which is a curriculum that was created by the unionized building trades at the national level, that has been used across the United States, since 2008. So this is not new. These are things that are already happening across the nation and here in Connecticut. And I think that kind of, in Hartford, I'm sure that it can happen. We're not saying that we don't have we don't want our young people to go to college and pursue higher education, but not everybody goes to college, and there are people that love to work with their hands, that would love to have the opportunity to be electricians, plumbers, operating engineers. I mean, that they really would love to have the opportunities to enter a building trade. So I think that, when you look at, while the larger youth workforce system, right, continues to create increased coordination, at the moment we have these immediate opportunities that we can effectively put in place a vocational training pipeline to assist our young people to enter registered apprenticeship training programs that, where they are going to get quality instruction, they're going to get credentials, they're going to be, get good wages, and then, they're going to get benefits, and hopefully if they begin early enough, they'll be able to retire early while their body still functions, and perhaps they can move, into other sectors of the business where they can become business owners. They can do, other things. So I think that this is where we would like to see a trades apprenticeship readiness program at the comprehensive high schools in the city of Hartford. So kind of, that is number 2. And then under number 4, again, this is where we're looking to establish agreements or sector partnerships with employers and developers that actually come to the city of Hartford, where, they can help us put in place a system, right, that can identify the skill set for individuals, as well as a commitment, right, to hire Hartford residents. Because when you look at the data and you look at the fact that 61% of Hartford job opportunities require a bachelor's degree or greater, but only 33.3% of residents over the age of 25 have at least a high school diploma. It also tells us that we need to create training and employment opportunities for people at all levels. I can speak again at the construction, in the construction sector. We have what we call project labor agreements. Hartford is not new to establishing what we call PLAs in the city of Hartford. I believe that the schools that are participating in the school program are getting built under a PLA. What is going to happen at the Excel Center, basically, there are multiple projects that are going to be built under a project labor agreement. And I think that this is an opportunity for the community, again, to get together, to basically, put language into these agreements that are going to benefit, and create both training and placement opportunities for city residents, because there has to be a commitment, right, from the employers and developers that come to the city, especially that are looking for subsidies from the city, to basically, commit to creating, these opportunities. So we kind of, number 2 and number 4 are kind of related, because everywhere that we have at least a commitment from hire and there is a project labor agreement, there should always be a strategy to create that pipeline with city residents that are going to be ready to go to work when contractors need the manpower. So I think that's basically kind of the presentation on number 2 and 4.
Yeah, I think Yolanda too, and maybe if this, unless Marilyn and Kelly, you
Yes.
want to ask additional questions, in terms of,
Yeah.
we would just note that a couple other things is that we did compare some of our reports to some of the other transition committee reports, and really, again, appreciate the mayor's opportunity to have us do that kind of cross connection. And so, we were looking at how do we, on the youth side, even look at, as there was another transition group looking at justice involved youth, can we even further focus how we can provide key services relative to individuals that are seeking workforce services, as well as, I think we were talking with some of the folks who are working on both recreation and resource centers. How could we connect those to the community hubs so that, we could, again, as Yolanda said, connect some dots here, because some of the different discussions by other transition groups had similar kinds of, and I think also talking with you, Councilwoman Rossetti, about, the work you were doing with homelessness, how there's like a growing and increasing number of individuals who are homeless, who also could require additional employment training, but also support services. And how do we connect those to the community workforce hubs? And so we, saw really a significant number of opportunities to, as Kristen mentioned, there'll be a further, and I think you mentioned also, Councilwoman Rossetti, that there'll be a coming together of all the transition committee leaders. we think there's a lot of other potential to connect the dots to their work. And then I think lastly, Yolanda, we would want to just note that the committee, while we were right, we were kind of charged with, can we come up with 3, maybe 4 strategies, no more than that. There were, considerable discussion on several other areas that we really need, to have a sizable effort going on around what we would call integrated basic education skills training, where, it's kind of an intense effort of how do we maybe take both some of the adult education supports around GED, ESL, and really assure that they're connected to the occupational training. At the same time, you're, getting your GED, you're also getting occupational certificates in different key growth areas. And how do we assure with that there's tutoring and support services connected in? And that's a very sizable undertaking that needs to happen if we're really going to get at the economic opportunities that many people in the city would like to further pursue. We talked about multi-gen kind of workforce programs where we're seeing the family, the adults and the youth and the children all in one space, that they're learning together and they're having a chance to maybe even, sharing a meal together and having it more of a holistic kind of approach. And when we've done that in several different areas, we've seen real success, real progress happen with individuals who've gone into healthcare and other kinds of good careers. And then we would also note there's a number of regional sector partnerships that have developed just in the past year or two, where there's dozens and dozens of employers who have come together, and they also want to kind of roll up their sleeves and work with young people, connect with internships and other employment opportunities. And that ranges anywhere from healthcare to transportation, distribution, logistics, to IT and tech. How do we assure that those are connected back to these community hubs? How do we assure that it's a really important opportunity? So, I think in summary, trying our best to, take the opportunity that you provided us to share what we see as some of the critical items that that the mayor has really kind of galvanized and mobilized us to bring these recommendations forward. I think we see these as critical and timely, and really there to continue to be of assistance and support to the mayor and council leadership as you consider these kinds of items.
Jim, I also would like to also note another point, and this is regarding kind of, the local hiring agreements. A very important component of it's basically kind of the contract monitoring and compliance that needs to happen when you have these agreements, because this is what is going to create opportunities, with contractors and other businesses, because otherwise they're going to come to the city, they're going to perform the work, they're not going to abide, by the hiring goals. And then, it will be too late by the time that we call them back, to basically discuss why they were not able to be in compliance. So the city also will have to have the right amount of staff to be able to monitor these contracts. So that is an important piece of being able to successfully create these opportunities for city residents.
Thank you. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Neely. Councilwoman Bilodeau, do you want to comment, questions? I have a few things, but you go first, please.
You can go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay.
I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay, well, first of all, I really want to thank you, because as Councilwoman Bilodeau and I both know, it was, certainly it was interesting, it was great, but it was a lot of work. So a couple of things, and, this, again, you have me energized, because this employment stuff, as Yolanda knows, goes back to some of the heart of some of the things that years ago. So the youth career pathways piece, the stunning major skills gap, 61% asked for bachelor's degree and 21% have them. So that leads me into, well, first, Jim, you talked about this kind of website, this comprehensive website that's doable, not years from now, but, in a timely fashion. Now, that kind of thing too, you said there's some existing pieces. Could it also continue to be built out in the future? So it's not kind of an end game, it's like a beginning game?
Yeah, I mean, the work that's going on is actually coming through both what's called the Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative and the Hartford Career Navigation System, where there is a website that's called the Work-Based Learning website, where organizations have access to putting their information in, all the critical information in, and they've also gone through sort of a training period of what needs to be put in, and they're able to, they've identified point people that will keep the information up. Now, that's, as I said at the beginning, that's probably a couple dozen agencies. We'd like to see that, multiplied so that all of the agencies are doing that. And it was kind of started as a pilot. So that work is going on right now and can be sustained going forward. And it also has the technology infrastructure to also move towards mapping, right? So that it would then appear in a map, and it could be, put it on the city's, children, youth, family,
I know.
division, as well as, Capital Workforce Partners. We've already talked about how we can have a joint, support so that people can have different access to that. I'd say the other item that maybe I would note around some of this is also focused on some of the youth employment work, right? So there's a major, summer youth employment program that we have several organizations in the city that, serve several hundred people that, Capital Workforce Partners kind of organizes to connect those programs together. So that information, it also has, a lot of data and information that we can build on. And if I might also say that the state of Connecticut right now in their budget is looking at a sizable increase in youth employment funding. And we would also encourage the mayor and council to assure that we all are weighing in with the state that those kinds of resources need to stay intact, because last year in Hartford, we had almost 4,000 applications by young people for youth employment. We were only able to support about 800 youth. Now, with that increase this year from the state, we could see many more youth in Hartford served. And that data point you saw about how we need to do our best to get more young people into work-based learning at a young age is just absolutely critical. So I hope you don't mind me just taking that extra minute to note that.
No, and a couple other things, and then I'll make some comments. But I know people often talk about duplication of services, and I understand that, but we're kind of in an industry where I don't think we have enough. So it's really not duplication of services, it's complementing services. So really, I want us to continue to not try to have less, but to take kind of what you're talking about, the things that we have, and complement them. Private sector loves to talk about how we have a duplication. They can have as much as they want, but that's another story. Yolanda, number 2, really, really, the Naugatuck has done it. Board of Ed must be a partner, half a credit, graduates in the field. This is the Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee. How can we move number 2 further? And, kind of where is there an interest in the city through the Board of Ed, obviously, in the mayor's office, but if there isn't, how do we kind of get more of an interest in that?
We first of all, we need to begin a conversation with, the superintendent and the staff to let her know about the opportunity. I know that, in the city of Hartford, the Board of Education basically kind of, is working with the deficit. I know that, one of the things that, she's tasked with is with, basically what are the things that she's going to cut, but I think that it has to begin by first letting her know about the opportunity.
So the conversation hasn't been had. So a coordination with the mayor's office, and I'm sure
Yes.
you've presented this to him. So I think
Yes.
number 2 is really important. I mean, they're all important, but I'm thinking about, getting into those fields, which as someone with family members, many members, from, carpentry to electrician to iron workers have had careers and lives. This is the kind of thing. And people should do that. I mean, that's something not everybody wants to. There was another thing I wanted to mention. I don't want to forget Charmaine Craig, who works with me in the office. She came on the call. Oh, so, as we talk about youth development, and Jim, you mentioned, the homeless piece, and that's my day hat. Some of it is certainly developing employers. Yolanda, I think that was number 4 or one of them. But as we develop employers, our obstacle kind of with people on the other end, maybe not, 18 to 24, but older is employment opportunities where that you can't, that can't have just one blemish. You can't, maybe some type of criminal record, maybe some type of unemployment, underemployment, not employment for a long time. I think there has to be, with reasonable accommodations, more flexibility in the workforce. And I always say, if anything good came out of the pandemic, which wasn't much, we noticed, particularly on my end, that there were more employers who were willing to say, oh, well, we need employees, so let's look at the people we always cast to the side. So as we can continue to talk about, employers looking at Hartford residents and how we do that, I hope we can also push the piece of, past the youth.
Yes.
I also, as we're doing all this, and then I'll kind of end with that, and this is really, really fantastic. I was thinking, because a lot of this you said won't take, years, which we it's not. Maybe you guys come back and, like, I don't want to say August, because August is not when you really want to do a Zoom meeting, but maybe September, 6 or 7 months from now, and give us an update where you're at. That doesn't mean we don't talk in between, and we don't help or be a part of, along with the mayor's office and my colleagues, on how we can move some of this forward, or just anything that, we can be a part of that.
And Marilyn, the same way that I know that, kind of we're talking about project labor agreements, if there are council members that are interested in knowing what they are,
Yep.
We can extend an invitation to the Greater Hartford New Britain Building Trades Council and have them also make a presentation to you as well.
Oh, that's excellent. I want this committee, besides referrals, which they don't get a lot of, I want it to be a resource for the city. I want a way to get out information. So, Councilman Bilodeau?
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for all your hard work and presenting this report to us. It was really great. Myself being, starting my career as a student intern and going through a program that gave me opportunity to gain experience and be where I am today, I know how critical this is to the youth of Hartford. So one area of difficulty that I've always seen is lack of information, or information from one source, right? So often you have to go out and seek the information regarding employment, summer youth employment, whatever it may be. And oftentimes it's knowing people that link these opportunities together. So when I was at the city, each year I would agree to take on a student. And it was very important for me to teach them about city government, because when they're taking this opportunity, it's not only a job, but I would like to see them grow in the field of government, right? Because that's our duty as a mentor, is to go ahead and try and do the groundwork so that they can expand on not only their opportunity, but their experience and knowledge in the field that they go and work in. So, and then I, have the concern of how do we keep them interested for continued growth, so that this is not a one-shot opportunity, right? Just come in, work this job for the summer, and then seek the next best opportunity. We want them to continue skills growth so that they grow in that field. I think all those things are important. So I look forward to helping support the opportunities for information growth, and also a lot of the things that you talked about in your presentation. And I'm here to support and help in any way, like Councilwoman Rossetti said. So I look forward to the collaboration.
Yeah, so we want to thank you again, for the opportunity. I know we just met last week, right, Christian, with our committee and the mayor. And the mayor was very focused on how do we take action on these items. And tomorrow, I think, Christian, we're spending some time to further talk about some potential implementation strategies. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
and one piece that you mentioned, Jim, or no, I think it was you and Yolanda. Staff to monitor. Can we, Christian, find out what kind of staff we have presently and what you
Mhm.
think the staffing capacity should be?
Yes, thank you. That would make big difference.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but let's find out. Let's
No,
start.
but it's the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the timing on this is
It's
right
very
now.
good.
I mean,
Yep.
and I think, partly too, as you said, there's a lot of really good organizations and leaders in this city that, we came to even, learn more about and what they're doing. And I think, as Yolanda mentioned, it is, and how are we connecting the dots? How are we connecting to each other? How are we, really trying to assure that the awareness is there? And how are we pushing and connecting the awareness throughout the community? And so that's really what's kind of the focus here. And you mentioned we also need to be sure that we're working together with employers. So one of the things the mayor, kind of talked about was the Newark sort of partnership and collaborative, where you have both the employers and the city and workforce and building trades and others working together, and they set goals for how to increase the number of residents in Newark that were getting jobs and employment. That's just one example of many cities that are, looking at how are they assuring that there are really proactive strategies to connect individuals that might be just as involved with quality career pathways that maybe prior to this had been pretty much limited. How are we, we had, as an example, if I might say, Yolanda, one of the leaders working with us was Beth Hines from the Welcome Center and CPA. And she was talking about how there's a location right next to her where, they're talking about could they make that into an auto mechanics training facility. And a number of cities are doing this around the country, that individuals can work on the, actual mechanical skills and then get, good jobs coming out of that. And they can also get a car for transportation. And how are we really thinking about incubating, supporting those kinds of creative, really, cutting edge kinds of opportunities? And so we have a good amount of significant leadership support. And also the group was, looking at how can we continue to be there to be active, to support this overall effort.
And it's not like this hasn't happened in the city. There was this organization, I think it was called Heart,
Mhm.
kind of
Right.
active back in the day around PLAs, and
That rings a bell.
I believe a learning corridor was built. But with that said, even in the work on the small scale that I do, Yolanda knows, with the folks experiencing homelessness where we are, what it does is it takes work. You meet the employers where they're at. You go after the employers. You invite them. We have a little jobs fair where we know that the employers are going to be, either felony forgivers or look at the whole of the person. But it's a cold call, but it's also a follow-up. This is what we're offering. And we're not going to say, well, we think we'd like to put someone who was arrested for embezzling in a bank job. You know what I mean? You also look at who you have. But
Yeah.
it can happen. And, and if we want to continue to talk about the employment piece, there will be less employees unless people start to look at the bigger picture on employment. So, Jim, the things you and Yolanda, and I know Mike understands this, this is what has to happen. Again, I don't want to talk about myself, but it's duplicated all over the place. We started a social enterprise because we saw the men, they weren't getting hired. So we started our own temp agency because somebody's got to hire people. And, what's the next step? How do you, the trades are now involved. So, but it takes work. That's what it is. And you've got to go to people, and sometimes the city has to push them. It's kind of a quid pro quo.
Yep.
Mr. Neely.
That's exactly it, because we heard from a lot of folks that they've gone through training opportunities, got certifications, but the employment wasn't there. The connection wasn't there for them at the end of that. And they felt it was a waste of time. So,
Yep.
we
Mr.
need to do
Neely,
better in that area.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something. Want to thank Yolanda and Jim just for inviting me to be on the transition committee team here. But as far as like for us anyway, for the trades, we want to make sure that we're getting the message out that it's available to people in places that we haven't really pushed, and we're starting to get out and advertise, and we want them to know that it is another avenue other than, college, and not that college is bad, but if you have another avenue and it's a career orientated thing where you get your training, it's not like a bank buster where you're going to think you have to go out and get a loan. We basically do all this training for free. I mean, it's pretty much costs nothing, just your, ability to just grind and get it done. So we're looking for people that, that are looking for a career, and it's open. I mean, I think for us, we haven't advertised enough to let people know what's out there. I'm a product of the city. I've been an electrician for almost 40 years. It's a good trade, and it's just not my trade, electricians, but I'm going to touch on what Yolanda was saying about the contractors. It is a big thing with a PLA because the contractors are on board with people from the city on these projects. So if the mayor doesn't understand that, we need them to know that the contractors are actually on board with this. This isn't something we have to push on the contractors. If they do get these jobs in the city, they're on board, if it's a PLA, to make sure that we can hire as many people that we have that work that are in the city to get them on jobs. And not just get them on the job, but to get them in the, apprentice programs so they can have a career. So
And there was a time, Mike, that was an accepted, that was kind of the accepted way in the city of Hartford. It wasn't,
right.
A foreign.
And to her point, I want to make sure I don't mess your name up. Bilaldo?
Billadu, Kelly.
Billadu.
Yes, it's not going to be a one and done. So
Yeah.
we're with the students throughout the whole thing, and we're trying to help them. And actually, Yolanda has some stuff we, work with her to make sure the students don't get left behind. We want to make sure they're not just getting cast out for one job. So we're trying to make sure that they get their education and get a career. And the other thing I think people don't stress enough is the trades are the trades, but the trades also lead to, you might want to own your own company. You might want to be an office person. You might want to be in a position like me. You might want to be in a position like everybody else on the board here. So it leads to other opportunities. If you think you had your fill after 20 years and you want to do something else. And, it does give you college credits for us. I don't know what the other trades, but we get about 40 plus credits of college credits while you're going through our apprenticeship. So we have plenty of people who continue their education after we, go through our program. So there's more than just, going through the trades. It's a thing where you want to give back also, because that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, because I noticed that there weren't a lot of people getting that opportunity. So, for me to be in my position, it gives me a chance to give back to the city and let everybody know that there are opportunities out there other than, that if you can't afford to go to college, there's opportunities for you to get in the trade or get into a different type of business. So I just want everybody to know that it's out there.
It's such a good point, Mike. Again, great about college, but you don't end up with all those student loans.
Right. And I think, the only commitment we have is that you try to stay. We don't want you to leave. We tell people all the time, even though we train you and we want you to, do better, but we really don't want you to leave. We want you to stay.
Mike, just a question. Is this promoted in the local high schools at all?
Well, we've been going to the high schools. We haven't done it like previously as much, but now we go to Weaver, Prince Tech, all the surrounding tech schools, all the schools that will take us, we'll go.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Any school that wants us to go do a presentation, if they want to come to our building, always open. We just need to schedule, but we'll take any high school or any tech school. They want to come see our building and show them our program, what we have to offer.
Students who attend comprehensive high schools, they deserve the same opportunity as those that are attending vocational high school. So we have begun to make presentations in the schools and work directly with schools, to train their seniors.
And we wouldn't have any problem with you guys coming down too and looking at our facility and seeing what we do.
Yeah,
So-
So anytime you guys want to come down, you're more than welcome.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
Yeah,
This-
Jim.
this does remind me, I mean, just to take it one more minute. I mean, you brought this up, and when some of us were sitting here in the mid 1990s, right? For
Yep.
those of us, and folks, and we were community leaders, and we were talking about building a complex set of schools, right,
Yep.
in Frog Hollow, and how many people said, "Oh, you don't have the funding to do that."
Or you
well-
can't do that. You're never going to find any people that,
Right.
basically will qualify.
Yeah. And so, but what did we say? We kind of had the will, right, and the focus to do that. I'm bringing that up for a reason. When we were also there talking about, could we get, millions of dollars of investments for public housing? Or, there was some discussion about, was that possible? Could we really get that? And well, let's fast forward to today, right? The kinds of recommendations we just put in front of us, right? Given the issues that are in the, the community in terms of what I would like to think are opportunities, are we thinking about the same way? We were really excited when the mayor, right, Christian, kind of addressed us at Trinity College when opened up the meeting for the transition committees and leaders. What did he ask us? Didn't he ask us to think bold? Didn't he ask us to think out of the box? Didn't he ask us to be, really mindful of what the community needs were? And so here we are sit today, and we put forward these recommendations, and they're realistic, they're doable. Let's not stop short of here, sort of, then saying, can we find the resources? Can we make this happen? The resources are there. The availability is there. We are now really excited by the mayor, council, and community leaders really taking and moving this forward. There's no reason why what we put forward here cannot happen other than the will and the follow through and the leadership and commitment to make it happen. And so, we want to continue to dedicate ourselves towards that. We had people on the committee, right, Yolanda, like Mary Morgan from Hartford Hospital, Hartford Health, who's already started a fair chance program working with the NAACP, opening up healthcare opportunities for individuals, right, that as internships and sort of work-based learning programs at Hartford Hospital. We've got Marty Guay, right? I think, Yolanda, you're meeting with him tomorrow morning with some of the trades from Stanley Black & Decker, who wants to further put his support. We have members on this committee, thanks to the mayor's, aspirations and inspiration to us, that really want to roll up their sleeves and continue to, make this work happen, as well as a lot of the organizations that have just, tireless efforts going on. So I just wanted to, as you mentioned, is this, August? Yes, we would love to come back. We'd love to come back again tomorrow night.
And I say that only because as an update, we're committed to work on this with you. I mean, I'm not speaking for my council colleague, but I know she is. So we want to be an active participant. We want to push things that Jim said are doable. And this is not anything that hasn't happened before. So it can happen again. It just needs to have a focus on it. So, I will also follow up with the mayor's office with Christian, but things like, staff to monitor, building out a website, making sure employers want to, get employers, but also who they're going to employ, PLA's information, union piece. These are all things that just need to be talked about, have some timelines and some due dates. The Board of Ed piece, that's a little more complicated, but still, it is something that can absolutely happen. So you have a commitment from us, from,
I agree, Marilyn.
and, this is just the beginning. And when I say we meet again, that's just as an update to see where we've gotten with things. But this is going to be, we'll be touching base frequently.
Thank you for the opportunity to support us to come and present to you.
And thank you for presenting, and, thank you, Mike, you and I, we were neighbors at one point, Mike. Did you go to school with my husband or his brother? Were you in Greg's class or his brother's class?
Brother, with his brother.
Brother. Okay. So, I mean, we go way back. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. I think that's all. That's all we have on our agenda for tonight, but this was a great first labor, education, workforce, youth meeting, and I look forward to many more. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.